Welcome to Horror Icons 2011. I should mention that Tony Todd is not going to be with us today, but you will get over that in a moment when I introduce. There's no booing in horror. Okay, today we're going to welcome a couple of horror's favorite sons to the stage. One of them slightly delayed, but each with an impressive and ongoing list of movie credits under his belt. Each of these men can stand up here alone and be entertaining for a full hour, but as a rare treat, we're going to have both of them on stage eventually at once today, fielding your questions and perhaps trading some stories with each other, which I would like to see. So at this moment, you know this next man as Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund. Joining us on stage, you know him as many things, you know him from Aliens, you know him from Near Dark, one of my personal favorites, Lance Henriksen. Wherever you guys want. Okay, this is mostly going to be about what you guys want to know from these gentlemen. I'm going to keep my questions to a minimum, so what I want you to do is, where's Kevin? Where's my man Kevin? You're going to line up behind him in the aisle, if I can get him to, well, there he is, in the back. I think he's reading. He's not looking at me. Okay. We're going to line up behind him. And while we're having you guys line up, I'm going to throw out a question of what you guys are working on currently that we can look forward to. What's in the pipe right now for each of you guys while we have people line up with their questions?
Well, I think Lance is busy. Lance, you want to go first?
I just finished a movie here in Georgia called This All the Shoot. This thing's not on. This is a shoot too. Is that on? Oh yeah, okay. And it was I play a farm up in Georgia with that "What now?" accent. You know, so it's really fun. Having a good time. And I got another movie coming out called Ambush, and another one called Bring Me the Head of Lance Henriksen.
I've got a film I did last summer. It's going to be premiered at Boston's Rock and Shop. Kind of a down and dirty little film in the spirit of Salt on Precinct 13, the great Carpenter film, with a little bit of a Jack the Ripper serial killer thing. And I got to work with one of Lance's co-stars, William Forsythe, in that for the first time, and that was fun working with Billy. But he plays the cop that can't catch me. And then I'm off to Baton Rouge to hopefully work with Lucky McKee in November.
I think we have a Tony Todd in the building. Oh my God! So now we're all complete. We got a complete set. We'd like to welcome Tony Todd to the stage now. We were in the midst of telling everybody in the crowd what the latest projects that you guys have coming up. What's in the pipe for you?
I just wrapped a film last night. I was in South Dakota, of all places I've never been to. It's beautiful open plains, wonderful. Reported on the plane 6 this morning and made it almost in time for the panel. I got to tell you, I was laying out in the field for 2 days. They got these things out there called chiggers. Chiggers and cow pies, and they told me, don't worry about the cow pies. They're grass fed. And I said, it comes out the cow's ass.
All right, I'm going to run down here for audience participation. You, sir.
I guess my question for Robert. As the
Well, I think the character always had a very dark sense of humor, and he would sort of take the jargon and the popular culture of his victims and kind of turn it inside out and throw it back at them. Because he was privy to whatever their secrets were, or their lusts, or their fears. He could exploit that and play with that. And he did it in a surreal, sort of subconscious, imaginative way, because he exists only in the dreams. What happened was, I would do an end of a scene in some of the sequels, and I would do it very, very dark, with a kiss of death. It would be dramatic, and I would also do it with a quip, a one-liner. And as we were cranking out some of the sequels, I think the editors became a little too fond of relying on the one-liner, or the quip, or the wisecrack, as a sort of rim-shot punctuation point that gives the film a kind of a nice cut and punctuation point at the end of the scene. And I think they should have probably opted for the dark choices a little more. But it was always, he's always been a cruel clown, and that's always was part of the personality. And it wasn't, we didn't really have suits. It was New Line Cinema, and we were their first big hit. They call it the house that Freddy built.
In the interest of not having a feedback issue, can we move the head of the line back to about halfway down this path here? Sorry. Just don't want to give the sound guys a hit. Right. You guys can make feedback. Okay, so.
Hi, this question is kind of for all of you. Considering what's happened as far as, the failure in the box office with like Fright Night and I know Final Destination 5 just came out, and Scream 4, and some of the other recent horror movies that came out, what do you think is going on as far as the future of horror? Is it going to be more focused towards mainstream, or do you see independent horror starting to make a comeback like it did in the mid-90s?
Well, I think all box office is down, except for the occasional event, Avatar thing. Box office is generally down, I think. And I know I've been mostly busy when I'm not doing television. I've been mostly busy doing real alternative independent horror lately with very young people and using a lot of the new toys, the new digital cameras, which make it much more cost effective. But there's always a horror movie in the top 10 every week, or a science fiction film or a fantasy film. So I don't think it's going anywhere. I think they've probably replaced the westerns as the kind of go-to programmer.
Yeah, that is what's happening. I mean, there's probably a lot of people in this room that are going to make a horror film. You know what I mean? The technology is so available, and then some will emerge like Let the Right One In, or, there's these wonderful diamonds of movies that will come out, because we all come from different places and we've got original stories, and that's what's going to happen probably for the genre until one of them just breaks through in a way like nobody's ever seen, and then the producers, being the way they are, will jump on it and make about 10,000 copies, So.
Also, I think horror finds a great second life. I know I've had experience in the last 5 years, and maybe Tony and Lance could elaborate about other projects they've done. I've done movies that went direct to DVD or failed at the box office, and then a year, 2, 3, with one of my Stephen King movies, even like 10 years later, found a huge cult status on cable, not DVD, but on cable. That became the place on demand or downloaded, or on HBO or Showtime Extreme or something. I've had movies that had a huge second life, not just horror, but also independent films. Even a Disney film I did became a huge hit when it went on cable. And so it's strange how audiences, or sometimes you do a movie that's ahead of its time, and maybe it takes a half a generation. People pick up on a movie and then they fall in love with it, or they fall in love with the character, or somebody in it becomes a superstar and it gets rediscovered on that level.
Well, there's another one. Near Dark came out, and when we first came out, at the same moment, De Laurentiis went bankrupt. So our first ad in the papers was about the size of a business card. And then at the same moment, Lost Boys came out, and that had like full-page ads. But now here's like how many years later, and Twilight comes out, and they re-release Near Dark with a Twilight kind of cover on it. And it had a big reemergence again, So it's funny how, and Near Dark has really become a cult film thanks to you guys. I mean, it's like it's coveted. It's a coveted movie.
Lance meets Bella.
I'll drink a bottle of blood.
Well, just to add to that, I guess, maybe some of you don't know, but on Tuesday's Variety front page, it was announced that I'm making my directorial debut in a film called I don't know, I got two comedy people right to my left, who knows, maybe I can cajole something. Rest in peace. To carry on the tradition, we shall say. For real disease.
Tony, repeat the title. I think we got lost in that.
Catalytic.
So Tony, you directed it?
No, I just was announced that I'm going to direct it for Symbolism Pictures, which is
You are.
again.
What's the script
to
like?
you 2 weeks ago.
Anything in it for me?
Tony, we'll do lunch.
I'm the kid there. They used to kick me around and stuff, saying, "You sure you want to do this stuff?"
Tony, I've known you a long time.
Yes,
I
yeah.
can't go anywhere with you.
I just saw you 2 weeks ago. Remember?
Hi, this question's for Robert Englund. I was wondering, did you like the new Nightmare on Elm Street movie that came out? 'Cause I thought, I don't know if you thought it was weird the direction they took it in and how they made it really creepy and yeah, it was fun. So
I'm a Hollywood kid, so I'm not the right guy here to do a rant against remakes. There's only so many stories, to talk around a campfire. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy kills girl. But you know what I'm saying. Only so many stories that we have, and Hollywood has always remade its stories since day one. The silent films were all remade into talkies. They always do it. One of my biggest paydays was on a remake of Phantom of the Opera, ever in my life. It was all kind of an attempt to do a Hammer film. So regarding the Nightmare 1 remake, I know a lot of that cast. Lance and Tony know a lot of that cast. I'm a big fan of Clancy Brown, and I worked with Galen. He was also in Jennifer's Body. He's a terrific young actor. He played my son in a film that I did with Brian Cox called Red, another Lucky McKee project. But and so I had a kind of vested interest because I know a lot of the people involved in it, and I'm happy to hand the glove over to Jackie. I think he's a real interesting actor, and if you don't believe me, watch him shine in Shutter Island in a cameo. He's the best thing in watching for my money, and I think he's a terrific young. I've been a fan of his since a little movie called Breaking Away that he did years ago. He practically invented the slacker character, before Keanu and before Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and even Sean Penn's Ridgemont High. Jackie had this sort of, delineated this kind of American boy child, that was a little slow and a little stone, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I think he did an interesting interpretation. I think the problem with that movie is that the kids are also goddamn damaged at the outset of the film, that we never see them happy, we never see them joyous, we never see them full of life, so we don't invest emotionally with them so that we can watch, their sort of downfall and root for them against Freddy. They're already sort of, somnambulistic and damaged from the get-go. And so I think the movie has a little bit of too much of an emotional distance. It's a little cold.
That was very brave of you to ask that question about that.
First of all, I have to say you guys have done a great job of bringing the horror generation started up and making it what it is today. But also, my question is actually going to be, am I going?
honeymoon on Elm Street?
And that is the first scene in our new movie that we're going to see.
Congratulations, you guys.
You gentlemen have all three scarred me for life. I'm very amazed. Thank you for that. My question is for Mr. Englund. I grew up a Freddy fan. You were my go-to guy. And I was wondering, I know Freddy has always been a very sexual character, but now he's sort of evolved. There was a lot of symbolism. Now he's sort of become a sex symbol in the horror genre. Did you see it happening, or?
What was the question?
Would you expect the undertones, the little tidbits that you added to Freddy to elevate him to the sort of horror sex symbol that he is?
All that stuff's in there from Wes Craig. Wes used to call Freddy to kind of steer us as the bastard stepfather of us all. And we know the implications of stepfathers, both good and bad. And there's some Freudian, Jungian stuff hidden in there. I mean, Freddy knows what's in your underwear drawer. Freddie knows what's under the bed. Freddie, knows where you hide your Playboy and your condoms, and Freddie knows those notes where you write boys' names on them and kiss them with lipstick and fold them up in your secret diary. Freddie knows all that about you. He knows your crushes. He knows if you've been good or bad, so be good for goodness sake. But all that stuff is that's inviolate, and Freddie violates it, and that's a kind of rape.
I got a capper for that. Sex and death came along at exactly the same moment, because if things lived forever, you wouldn't need sex, right? Because you'd have to procreate. So think about that for a minute. You're welcome. Oh.
Thank you, Professor Lance.
This question is for Robert Englund. I wanted to ask you about the Call of Duty Black Ops appearance. That was a nice little salute to the horror genre, and I was just curious how that came about and what that experience was like.
Well, I think Lance is the champion gamer guy up here. This is my version experience with gaming, except for a pinball machine, which I don't know how old I am. I did voiceover for pinball. That for me it was an opportunity to do the Avatar technology and to hang out, for a week with Sarah Michelle. Bobby, want to have lunch? It was just, the great Danny Trejo and Michael Rooker. But, it was pretty surreal because the three of us, with our ponchos in tights and little lights all over us, Sarah was great in tights, but the other three of us were a little long in the tooth for that. But it was real interesting to me because I've done, everybody up here has done tons of effects over the years. And we both go back to when they were a little more primitive than they are now. And this was a chance for me to really use the sort of state-of-the-art stuff that they did with Avatar and get myself familiar with it, because my green screen experiences and stuff are a little bit old school compared to what they're doing. So that was really fun for me. I learned a lot of it. And please choose me as your Avatar. Supernatural. Well, this was great. I didn't take my wife up to Canada for Supernatural because she has a crush on both those boys. I left her at home and just hung out in Vancouver, one of our favorite towns, right? Lance was up there forever. Millennium. It's just a great town for actors to work in, and that's always an attraction when you get invited up to Canada to work. And I may come back. I think I have some backstory with the boy's father. I'm sort of a backroom doctor, without bringing up what that really means. And so but I do know how to put the boys out so they can kind of cross over if they need to. It was fun working on it. My old V producer, Robert Singer, is the producer of that show. I think maybe he figured I needed to work again and get some money for my health and welfare screen actors guild. But he sent out I love to go on jobs so I don't have to read and audition.
Hi, my question is for Mr. Todd. Of all the memorable characters you played, what's been your personal favorite?
What's my what? My first? Well, you know, I come from a theater background, so believe it or not, I mean, I love all the film and TV work I've been blessed with, but whenever I have a chance to go back on Broadway or even regionally, I tell you in a heartbeat. In the last, I was blessed to create the role of King Hedley II by the late August Wilson, and that was one of my highlights. So, it's nothing like life, you know? Making love, making out, it's better life.
Let me go back for 1 second. You've been in some of the best movies ever made, such as Terminator, Aliens, and it seems like nowadays you do a lot of straight TV fare. We have some big budget movies like Aliens, Predator, what have you. But is that a personal choice to do more super low budget fare, or is it just sort of part of your career at this point? What have you?
That's a great question. It's a little embarrassing. The truth of it is, if you do one big budget movie a year, and then what are you going to do for the rest of the year? You know what I mean? So to do these independent films, you end up, in a way, being a sort of a biggish fish in a little pond, and they kind of listen to you, you know, and you have fun. You bring some experience to an inexperienced situation sometimes, you know. So you can be very creative. And it's kind of a blessing, you know, because when you do a big budget film, one of the things that happens is they guard that script with their lives. You know, they don't want to change a comma in it, because that's where the money was invested in that thing. And so your range of activity as an actor is narrow. But when you're doing an independent film, it's not. You can really swing the bat and try to hit a home run with it. I mean, I don't do any low budget acting if that's, you know, if that's what you think, you know, not gonna happen. But I'm in situations that are very experimental. So, and I didn't make all those big movies. I was just in them. You know what I mean? So I'm humbled by that. I mean, I've been fortunate to be in a lot of good things. And work with a lot of good people. Robert and I did an independent film recently. It's called Good Day for It, where him and I were part of a gang in Pennsylvania up in the Pocono Mountains. And we were really, and it came out, and it probably will go to DVD. It didn't have a lot of backing for a release. But I work a lot, and if I'm not acting, I don't think I'm an actor. When I was off for a while, I decided to be off and wrote a book. It's a biography called Not Bad for a Human. So, anyway, that's did I answer the question? And you can get it on Kindle and Nook and iPad.
I have a very quick little request and a question for Mr. Englund. I was wondering, have you ever dreamed of Freddy Krueger or Elm Street? And my little request is for my sister, could you pretty please say hello, Christine, in your pretty voice?
Die, Christine. I'll tell you, I love being asked to do that because I'm flanked up here. I got bookings, two of the best Basso Profundo whiskey voice guys in the business on either side, you know. And I've got this little, you know, squeaky Southern California voice that sounds kind of metallic and somewhere between David Spade and I don't know. So thank you for that request. I'm surrounded by these two. The other part was what? Oh, if I ever no, you know, the only time and I tell the story and it's in my book and it's not fresh at all, but I fell asleep very early on in the original movie, and as opposed to most films where you worried about losing the light, we were worried about losing the night. And I was in my little pre-star honey wagon, which was narrow, about the size of a bathroom in a one-bedroom apartment. And opposite my little cot was a mirror for the makeup touch-up, and it had light globes around it that were on a dimmer switch. And I had the dimmer switch turned down to just a kind of ghosty glow. And I'd lie down and rolled up my towel like a Japanese pillow, and so that I wouldn't roll to either side while I was taking a nap and ruin the makeup. And it was about 4 in the morning, hour of the wolf, I think that's called. Mr. Englund, the second AD, was going to try to get this shot. And I swung up out of the cot and I looked, and there, in the deep perspective of the makeup mirror, in the ghosting light of the makeup bulbs, was this old, bald, shiny, bloody, disfigured man. And I kind of went like that. He kind of went like that. It became sort of this Marx Brothers routine from hell. And it was me, and it only lasted for maybe, I was only startled 4, 5, 6 seconds, you know. Like a regular conservative, right? You know, I always think it looks longer than it is. But that stayed with me forever. And occasionally, that moment, just telling it to you now, can come back and kind of, you know, increase a little bit of what's left of my gray matter. And in that particular case, I have learned that moment. So in that respect, Freddy does haunt me a bit.
I'd just like to say that of the suspense, thriller, horror genre in general, you are 3 of the greatest things that ever happened to it. And everyone gets scooped, whether it's from your movies or something we read, something that's happened to us. So, and we wanted to, hopefully you guys could swap some stories. So I was wanting to know if you could tell us maybe what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you, or something that's really creeped you out, just in your life in general.
Tony?
Well, just last night we were concluding work on this film, Dust of War, which is fantastic, by the way. It really is theatrical. But anyway, I was out in this field and looking at the plains and realizing how big America really is, and yet how small it is. And there's buffalo and there's cow eyes and all that. And it was so weird because there's no Sprint service in South Dakota. My agency told me they'd give me a little prepaid phone and all this, and I could figure out how to do that again. And I'm talking, and there's only one little patch of air where I could get a phone call. So I'm trying to do this, and all of a sudden, after having survived for a week of playing in the field, I feel this thing like flying in my ear, right? So whoever I was talking to, I went going like, yeah, I'll get back to you next week. And it felt, and the makeup women were around me, and they're wonderful, they're beautiful, as you guys know, they make us look good. They ease the gray, they take care of the creases, stuff in the morning. And they saw this, and here's my image is, this guy, and I was like, I thought there was a flying squirrel in my ear. And I tried to get the mineral oil and the alcohol, but I said, no, he said, there's nothing there, Tony. I said, no, I can hear it. It's fine. So either that's the first signs of insanity, or I just go back to another place and do it again. But those moments of being on the set when you feel you're in a protected environment, and things go kind of awry, like Robert seeing himself, and, Ransom had to do dog reel. It happens, it creeps up on me. But that's, the longer we work, the more strange things happen. And that's the blessing.
Lance, what was this?
The scariest moment in my life was when I got married. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. And also when I got divorced. Don't listen to me. No, seriously. I'm just joking. I got a dog sense of humor. John Woo's on fire in a movie, Hard Target. And I was real candy-ass about it. I didn't tell him that, and I didn't let anybody else know that, but he asked me to do it, and I went, of course. They covered me with rubber cement, and right before they lit it off, I thought I was going to pass out. And they lit it off, and my adrenaline kicked in, because fire is so basic. I mean, every one of us has probably been burned at one point or another, in one way or another. But when that thing went off, my eyes dilated right out to the edge. You couldn't see the color. And my heart was like, it was really going. And I got real high on it. They kept saying, when you go back, the flames are going to wrap around your head. So don't breathe when you go back. Breathe when you go forward. The flames will go back behind you. And they lit it, and I went, back, forward, back. And I'm going, I'm going to die. And then we finished it, and I suddenly realized I wanted to do it again. And they did it again. John Woo said, we need it again, because we didn't get the right angles on this thing. And so I went, good, let's go. But I was scared, man, I really was. When I went home that night, I slept like a baby. I was so tired from my adrenaline. When your adrenaline quits, you go to sleep, man. That's it. Anyway, that was scary. Besides the right thing, but I'm only kidding. We worked on it for about 15, 17 years, so it was not a quick. I was getting really bored, even to myself. All right, anyway. Now leave it at that. What about you, Robert?
Well, I was going to tell a fire spent story too. Now I can't do that. So, and I love our target, and that stuff is usually you kind of see where the what do they call them, the flame bars are, But in that movie, there's no flame bars. It's amazing. Great location. I love our target. Anyway, so I won't tell a fire story. I got stuck in the contraption for The Mangler, directed by Todd, which is one of those cable movies I have that is sort of ascending in the pantheon of Stephen King films. I mean, you have to go to a desert island, you can have Maximum Overdrive, Emilio, or you get me as the Mangler. I think you're going to take the Mangler, even though that movie died on release. Ted Levine does that movie, Sounds of the Lambs. Ted Levine, Buffalo Bill, is defunct, and the contraption was amazing. We moved from Toronto, Canada, to Johannesburg, South Africa, and it was this amazing contraption, this laundry folding machine. It was, sort of Industrial Revolution style. And Toby's son had concocted this pot. And it actually worked. It actually moved and opened and shut. But it wasn't designed for anybody to go in. I don't think he read the revised script where I had to get eaten by the Mangler. And I got in that thing. And of course I had to sell the effects, and I had to sell the blood and sell the death. And the debate about how operatic to be or just how subtle to be, let the machine be the acting in that. And I kind of hyperventilated. And then it was just a bar, but it was a real metal bar. So I took the kind of foam fake steel bar off and put that on there. I hyperventilated doing all of my emoting and screaming and breathing and filling my torso with air so that I could really do a blood-curdling scream. And it sort of impressed on me, and I really felt like I was getting crushed, and that was pretty frightening. That's part of the scariest thing that's happened to me on film.
Hey, can I follow up on you with that? He did The Mangler with a good director and a good script, right? And I did The Mangler too. Was it bad? I don't mind talking about all the really bad ones I've been in. I call them alimony films, but don't listen. They hung me in the ceiling, right? And they had no idea what I should do once I was up there. But they had my face stretched out like I was made up of wires and all this stuff, right? And I came up with a line. I'm hanging from the ceiling. It's the kind of the fait accompli of my character. He goes out with it, And I turned to him. They rolled the camera, and I said, "Tell me what you want, what you really, really want." They left in the movie. Spice Girls, man. That's how desperate you get. Give me a good line where the guy hasn't got one, so all right, Spice Girls, man.
It's not Sporty Lands, it's not Posh Lands, it's Scary Lands.
This question is for Mr. Tony Todd. I find one of your most interesting roles when he was in the Night of the Living Dead remake. Starting as a filmmaker yourself, I know that in that remake there was a lot of violence cut out, a lot of scenes cut out, a lot of gore cut out. So, what's your position on that? Whether that should be in film, whether it should be in film, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm forever indebted to Tom Savini because that was my first lead role in the film. And I had to leave Bobby for that part. I was actually in Pittsburgh working on a play, and I heard they were doing this thing. About last week, sometimes we have Huntsville and we go out and read the band and go up to see us. What's interesting is 25 years later, I just finished motion capture work on an anime version of Night of the Living Dead. So I got the lead prize for the day.
Woo, cartoon!
It's called Night of the Living Dead Origins. The crazy director working on it for about a year and a half. I call him every now and then. Sing every time out. Should I stop talking about it? No, but it will come out. There's Simon West behind it. Acquisition of violence. My first film to direct, I didn't want to do a horror film, and I fought that for a couple of years. I have another pet project about a small that I think I mentioned last before called The Early PA. That's what I wanted to do first. But because of the success of Final Destination 5 and Freddy built, that was just my contract. Catalytic is more of a psychological thriller, but it has more nightmarish elements than gore or visceral. I wanted to be more like Rosemary's Baby. So my position is that less is more, and that the audience provides their imagination for what's truly scary. And if you have the right cast, if you have the right vision, you're in the right ballpark.
As well. Did you have a mentor or a role model that supported you earlier in your career?
Yeah, my mom. She was raised by a single woman, and we used to just watch movies together. And she said, "You can be what you want to be." And she really kind of prevented me from joining gangs or hanging out in the streets. She just kept it close. And we used to talk about movies continually, and she used it as morality tales. She was probably, and she got me into Boy Scouts. She got me into all the right programs all through my life. There was science class. I'm a nerd. I just got lucky. Come on, so it can happen to anybody. If you have a vision, just enhance it. All around. This is kind of good.
Did you just say a nerd that can happen to anybody?
I know you're a nerd, man. Stop.
Stand, Tony,
I've
stand
seen you at Home Depot, all
up.
right?
Tony, stand up, stand up.
You can't play the nerd card.
I didn't talk to girls until I was in college. Come on, I couldn't even get it out of my mouth. Did you want to have a date?
Hi, this is Robert Englund. First of all, I wanted to go ahead and tell you that you are, without a doubt, my favorite Freddy Krueger. I just want to go and say that. My question is, of all the nightmares that Freddy has went through, done with all these teenagers, which one is your absolute favorite nightmare?
Well, my favorite film is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It really holds up. I think it's the first truly deconstructive horror with a nod to Sam Raimi. But it's really a great film, and it really holds up. And you can watch it over and over again and still find new stuff. So that's but my favorite kill in a nightmare is, I think is what your question is. We were talking earlier about, did Freddy become too much of a vaudevillian, and if you step over the line from cruel clown to stand-up comic or camp. And yeah, I mean, in part 6 we intend to do that, but there were other moments in other films where we probably did stray over that line. But, I was trying to kind of, get Freddy back to his sort of cruel, politically incorrect cruelty in part 6. And I think when he sort of pumps up the volume on the young boy with the hearing aid, I think that's my favorite. You can hear a pin drop.
Final Destination. What I love about that, it's not necessarily my favorite movie of all time, but what it does, it paid very well. It allows me to pick and choose in a wonderful world of independent film. So if I do one Final Destination, I can escape for a year and a half and choose things that new directors that I believe in or whatever. Take a gamble. This is what we do is a gamble. Some things go direct to video, some things hit, some things become cult classic, but most of all, we are able to maintain, our livelihood and stay happy. So, in terms of which one was my favorite, the first one. The first is always the first. Everything else is just a retelling, but the first is where the original spark comes from. I'm just glad that they keep asking me to come to the party.
I'd like to add something. My wife and I saw the first Final Destination in a theater in Orange County. We were out shopping or something. And the audience, we had, just prior to this, you can tell the audience had a little too much of the early, heavy CGI films. Even films that I have friends in, like Starship Troopers. It kind of doesn't hold up anymore. The CGI, you kind of see that same alien insect dying over and over and over again. Like they used to make that same stuntman race around in covered wagons, and you see that same poor Indian get shot off the horse 30 seconds later. Like, we kids didn't know that. We knew that was the we'd just seen that shot, 10 minutes before. The first Final Destination was almost completely CGI absent. It was almost all practical stunts. And I watched that audience sit in the dark and lean forward more attentively, because when you do a practical stunt, the audience somehow knows it, and it's more athletic, and they invest a little more. There's a little less jump cutting and fast cut editing going on, because they want to linger on the actual physical activity. When those guys got yanked out of the plane, they're on wires. That's really a set falling apart, and those are stuntmen in those seats getting wire yanked. And you're watching something real, and you invest a little emotionally, almost like when you watch live theater, and the lights go down, and the lights come up on stage. Those people are doing it in real time, and you invest a little more emotionally with them, and you kind of go through the journey with them a little more, because it is real time. And that's that remarkable thing about the first Final Destination film.
Do you guys find yourself going to the theater just to watch the audience for your movies and see how they react?
If I'm watching the audience, I'm ready to leave the theater by then. Hey, there's another. You brought up something really interesting. When your eyes are working, your ears aren't, and when your ears are working, your eyes aren't. It's kind of a pulse. Is what's actually physically going on. And with CG, what you see a lot is they sweeten the sound to such a degree, because your gut is telling you this is BS, can't be happening. And then so you're hearing more than you're seeing. It's really interesting phenomenon. And then way in the background they'll do like that thing about LA, the attack on LA. Yeah. You see these incredible explosions happening, just smoke in the background. And that was fascinating. He knocked the stuff. Not that the guy's this little monster, not so little, but jumping around and getting shot. They were like BS, but the sound that they sweetened it to give it validity was just enormous. So sound guys are getting better too. That killed everything.
I was just going to add that the best use of CGI I've seen recently, it's not recent, but it's that Ridley Scott film about the retaking of Jerusalem with Liam Neeson. And it was sort of Orlando Bloom's opportunity to kind of reclaim, his macho after Troy. And actually Orlando's quite good. He plays Liam Neeson's son, and it's the Crusades. But there is a battle scene in that is, and it's Ridley Scott, so he knows how to paint on the screen. But there's a battle scene in that, and it's not that. If you watch Lord of the Rings really close, the first one, you can see where they repeat. Where they've added the same line. The foreground is 100 orcs charging, and then that same 100 orcs are up here. They just save their money on making 100 orcs, in the crowd. And in this Ridley Scott movie, this with Liam Neeson and Orlando Bloom, I can't think of the name. What's again? Kingdom of Heaven, and Ellen Green, I think is it Ellen. Eva Green is in that as well, and Edward Norton. It's a good film, but it's seamless, the battle scene, and that's like it's like Lance said about the background shots that are painted in Attack in LA, where you see smoke or a condominium burning, that we recognize as a landmark, where we have to go on interviews for commercials or something, but you see that, and that's that painting with CGI. It's so great as opposed to just overwhelming you with it, for the sake of it, which sometimes now it's almost over. It's unwelcome now.
I would like to see the cow take a CGI shit. I really would. They don't do simple things like that. It's 3D, baby. Tony Todd.
Robert Englund, Love Freddy, Hate Rorschach, Strangeland 2. What's going on? I heard about it.
Well, I think we've lost the financing on Strangeland 2. Dee's very busy now with his radio show. Well, he's just so busy because he's a hit. He got in with Howard Stern early. He got in there early, but and Dee Snider got in there early with Howard Stern on the new radio, which is uncensored, and it's really fun to do that. You can be really free, and I think that he's become such a franchise. It's real hard, and Tony will tell you this because he's in the director's seat now. It's real hard to go out and get financing. It's real soul to believe. You have to have your hat in your hand. You knock on doors, and the trick is you can get really close. I have two friends. I don't know how many of you saw Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. I'm really proud of that film. This poor guy has been trying to raise money for a sequel. Scott Glosserman is so brilliant. Speaking of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, theater major, and he has a phenomenal script. You can do it for nothing, but you get $1 million too, and you need $1.5 million in that last 300, or you get $1.5 million and you need another $500,000 because it's a $2 million budget, and getting that last $500,000. You work so hard, and that's their job. They call themselves producers. You got to do it, but that knocking on doors can really drive you nuts, and you take a lot of rejection, and that may have been one of the reasons Dee sort of backed off the project. I will tell you this. It's a terrific script, the sequel to Strangeland, and it was a first. We really got into the dark side of the history of the Pearson culture, which I thought was a real magical place to go. But anyway, thank you for your kind words.
Do it again.
My question is for all of you women. All of you women have been in various costumes and makeup. What has been the most grueling prosthesis or makeup experience that you can remember?
Tell them about the milk. I just read Lance's book. It's phenomenal. I'm learning all this stuff.
Thank you. When I did Bishop, they all of that, the entrails, you know, the technical, robotic, synthetic entrails were all hanging out. And they had a peculiar smell to them. And it used to make me feel like kind of queasy. And then we're on the set for the whole last sequence of the show. Took a couple of weeks to shoot it. And so they kept giving me yogurt and cream. And they would leave it out in the cup, like whatever part of the set we were working on. And they kept giving me sour. It was souring. You know, like I got yesterday's, and they all look the same. So I'm wolfing it down and doing all this stuff. And I got sick as a dog. That was a hard one. I mean, it took me hours to make it through weeks. 1 hour was like a week. That's how bad it made me feel. Between the synthetic stuff and the milk being sour. And they wouldn't let me off the set because I was a tricky part of it, so. And I weathered through that one.
Also, the stuff around you, that was dressed around you, they can't touch it after the first take. It's printed.
So I have to lay
it has to be there for continuity.
I have to lay there, sit there, going, oh, please. And maybe it's synthetic, but I'm not stupid. That's mine.
I guess mine was, I think well, the one that hurt the most was the manga, because I had to be stippled into prosthetics. So they would stretch my skin and stipple it, which is a makeup technique to make you look old. And then that's my real skin, and then they would put prosthetic pieces on me. And I also had to wear hair in that, and that's always tricky. And they had to blend in those edges. Now, usually you're blending prosthetic edges together that are fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. And they then recolor, and they just add their color and base you and jelly and send you an adult. But on that particular one, I couldn't get it off because the stippling, whatever they did to make my skin prematurely wrinkled adjacent to the prosthetic piece, that seam bonded, and I couldn't get that off, so I was raw for a lot of that shoot. That was a mistake. I mean, it looked great. It's really interesting makeup. We conceived the character. It was so slightly defined in the short story, and I work off of images a lot, unless I get in trouble, and then I go back to my Strasbourg training. But I like to work off of images. I like to try to go back to like what was working for me as a child, because I think children can sometimes be the best actors because they're unimpeded with, everything that comes after that. And one of the images I had was just a photo of Harry Truman, the president during the Korean War, and then the other one was a scene, because I knew I was wearing leg braces. It was a scene from a great Orson Welles film, Lady from Shanghai, and that was a physicalization cue for me. And also I wanted to borrow a little bit from the great character actor that was in Orson Welles' repertory company, Mercury Players. So I'm forgetting his name now, but he's also the co-star of Citizen Kane. But he was just a unique look, and I could look like him when I get old. It was just something I knew. So we conceived the makeup off of that, but we had to use this technique of stippling. And that's, boy, I'll never do that again. I'd rather wear prosthetics and colostomy bag glue any day.
Probably my most horrendous experience was on the last time I worked on Star Trek on Voyager. I played the Ocean, and it took about 7 hours because it was face and body makeup. And I love the makeup artists, but sometimes you get a little carried away because there's no reason to spray paint certain body parts on camera, particularly when they haven't learned how to heat that stuff. That was spontaneous. We're all spontaneous actors who come from moment to moment and all that. But, you got to tell somebody that, I think in a half hour I might want to pee. It doesn't work like that because they had it was all, complicated.
borrowed my colostomy bag limbs.
Yeah, you can. But you know, but on this serious side, prosthetics or makeup work, it all helps us as actors become the character. You watch yourself in the mirror, you see the efforts of the artist sort of pickling and stippling together, and if you're smart, you just let go, give over, and it helps you create the character.
There's an upside to all of this. The upside is when you do a game. Like right now, I'm in a video game called Ginger Clown. And I'm playing a guy called Brain Eater. And when I saw a picture of him, it looks like a big, swollen tick. He's articulate, but he eats bugs. That's what he does. They like it too. They saw it. But anyway, we don't have to do the makeup. We can do the voices and things like that. It's kind of cool. I'm sick of it. I'm not very funny anymore.
Yeah, I've OD'd on it.
Me too.
Yeah.
With that, I think we hit the end of our hour. So, those guys are very excited about what's going on, and it sounds great. So you'll be walking into something action-packed. But I would like to thank our guests today and thank all of you for joining us.